I hope you guys are having a great time and enjoying the class so far. Today we're going to talk in terms of software about gamification. So by the end of this session, hopefully you will be able to describe why gamifying therapy is useful. You'll also learn to install the Unity game engine. You'll modify your very first Unity micro game using the Unity tutorial, so I'll walk through that with you. And you'll actually be able to publish that game to the web and share your link with friends. And then you'll also create your very first basic video game in Unity from scratch. And for this, we're going to use an online tutorial that I went through already because I think it lays out things pretty nicely and shows you a lot of the ins and outs of game design and development. So as with all of our units, we don't really expect you to be a pro at game development by the end of this, but I do hope that this gives you a way to get your hands wet so that if you decide that gamification is going to be useful for you, or game design is useful for you, you kind of know where to get started. Okay, so why is gamifying therapy useful? Well, a lot of times as occupational therapists, we need to have patients do repetitive movements. So reaching, walking, moving, balance, etc. All sorts of movements, right? And as OTs, we know also that we should focus on meaningful or goal-directed actions. So we don't really want people to just do the same rote movements over and over again. This is kind of like the whole idea behind trying not to just have them do cone stacking or like moving rings from one side to another, but let's try to make it a little bit more meaningful. And so games are actually a really fun way that we can take routine tasks or movements and give them some sort of meaning and goal. We can also, with games, give people more feedback about their performance, and it can be a lot more engaging and motivating. And I think what's great about games is that they work well for younger clients. So pediatrics is where you usually think about games, but older adults are also really motivated to play games too, and they enjoy them a lot, actually. So I want to start by also saying that low tech is always awesome. And if you can achieve the goal of what you're trying to do in a therapy session with no technology, that's great, and you should totally do it. The technology usually makes things more complicated and just gives you more to do. But sometimes it fills a role that nothing else does. And so that's really where we want to bring in the technology. So for instance, if you're doing great and you're cooking in a real kitchen with your patient or your client and they're getting a lot out of it, you should definitely do that. On the other hand, though, there are times when you might not be able to do that. So for instance, if you're doing telerehab or some sort of like remote therapy, or home therapy where you can't necessarily be there monitoring them all the time, then games might be a better and safer way for them to do the same actions at home. And they also let you quantify the movement so that you can monitor them remotely. For stroke rehab, which is my area and the area that I do most of our research in, for us, we know that more movements leads to better recovery. So the more we can get somebody to practice wrist extension and elbow extension and reaching, the more likely they are to do better in their recovery. And that's, of course, really hard to embed like 100 or 300 movements in an hour just by having them reach for objects or do daily tasks, because we don't usually move that much in our daily lives. So in that case, games where you have them hit objects that are flying towards them or move towards different goals, etc., it can make repetitive movements a lot more fun and easy. And then, of course, pediatrics, setting up computer games can be a lot more fun than trying to have children interact with objects in a natural environment. I remember when I was working in an internship with pediatric clients, you'd like have them reach for balls or reach for different objects and toys, but you'd have to set them up. And then as soon as they got them, you also have to take them back down. It was quite a workout, actually. So if you're doing that a lot, then sometimes computer games can be fun and easy. And it also allows you as a therapist to be with the client while they're making those reaching movements instead of setting the things up. So those are just some examples, but again, tech is not always useful. So there's a lot of times when you also wouldn't need this. When we talk about gamification, there's a lot of different things to consider. So there's different platforms. For instance, do you want this to be on a gaming console like a PlayStation? Do you want it to be a mobile phone app because it's something that everybody needs to be able to access? Do you want it to be on a tablet? Do you want it to be on a computer game like a PC? Do you want it to be a web-based game, so you just pull up a web browser and play it? Those are some of the considerations. And then based on what you're trying to create, you also want to consider different, what we call game engines. So these are essentially software development environments that are made just for people to make games to play. The difference between a game engine and any other software programming language is that these game engines usually have built-in libraries for things that are dedicated for making sure there's input coming in from the user. So it could be keyboard input, it could be sensor input, but also output, and that the input drives the output usually. So if you're pressing the up button, then the car on the screen is going to move forward. They also have what's called rendering engines. So these are important for creating graphics and making the graphics move and making them look seamless so they're not like frame by frame and really stilted. They usually also have physics engines, which is really important in games because, as you imagine, in most games, you're interacting with physical objects and they have to have physical properties like gravity. You don't want to hit a ball and have your hand go through the ball, right? So they have to have some sort of mass to them, some sort of velocity, some sort of like texture, things like that. And then they also usually have integration with sound, animation, and other cinematics. So this makes them a lot more fun to play and a lot more engaging. So these are kind of like software environments with all of these types of libraries. And this is in contrast to things like Python, which, as we've talked about before, has a lot of different types of libraries, but isn't specialized specifically for games. Or MATLAB, which is another software environment, but it's mostly for math and statistics. So again, each library or set of functions lets you do different things. And these game engines are made just for making games. So the game engine that we're going to do today is called Unity. It's a really popular one. Again, I like it because it's kind of operating system independent for the most part. It should work on a Mac. It should work on a Windows computer. I actually tested it on a Windows computer first, and then I'm going to do it on my Mac with you. And you can deploy the games in a lot of forms. So this will let you create games for a PC, also for mobile, also for web. So today what we're going to do is we're going to install the game engine. We are going to run through one of the Unity beginner tutorials where we're going to learn how to modify a game. And that's just going to get you familiar with the general like aspects of the Unity game engine environment. And then we're going to, I'm going to have you go through this more advanced tutorial to be able to make your own game from scratch in Unity. So this is a playlist that I will also send out to everybody, but I'd like you to go through videos 1 through 7 of the playlist. It should take about an hour. And you're welcome to complete the whole playlist if you want. That would be up to video 11 so that you could finish the game. But I think by video 7, you should have a pretty good idea of what the different components of game design are and how you can modify them. Okay, so let's get started with this. All right, so let me just close this. And we're going to go to our web browser, and you're going to go to Unity, download. Okay, so this is true if you're on a Mac or on a Windows computer. So I'm going to click choose your Unity and download. And then this will be teams, and it'll tell you how much it costs, but you're actually just an individual. So you can choose student, which you are. I'm going to choose personal because I'm not a student. So either way, they are both free, and I'm going to click get started. So as a first-time user, you can have also this guided learning path to create your first game today. I'm going to click this because I would like you guys to click this. Okay, and you have to agree to these terms of service to download it. I'm going to just download it to my downloads folder. I'm going to replace it. All right, I'm going to click and open the download, agree to the terms of service. All right, and then I'm going to drag and drop this into here. Okay, so now I have Unity. I'm going to open my applications folder. And if I scroll down, you should see the Unity Hub here. On a Windows computer, it's the same thing in your applications now. You should be able to type in Unity and have it come up. So I'm going to go ahead and open it. I'm going to say open. All right, so this is actually going to start the download. So we're going to say install Unity. Okay, so here you're going to create your username. Please make it something professional and appropriate. And then your email and create a password. And then you're going to agree to these terms of service. One thing that I will note is that if you put in a password or a username that's already in use, let's say I use that, it will say it already exists. And it will be underlined in red, and it won't allow you to create the Unity ID. So make sure you do one that is unique. I already have a Unity ID, so I'm going to put mine in here. Oops. All right, so I'm going to sign in. Okay, and then it lets you select a microgame for your first project, which I think is really fun. Oops, and it wants to make changes, so I'm going to go ahead and let it. Okay, so it tells you a little bit about each of these games. You can modify what these are is like mini games that are basically already created for you, and it just teaches you about the Unity environment by letting you modify different elements in the game. So there's a Legos one, there's a first-person shooter, there's like a go-kart driving one, there's a platform game, which is a 2D side-scrolling platform, and then there's just an empty one, which is a little bit more boring, but whatever. We are going to do the karting one today, but you can go back and do any of these that you'd like as well. Okay. So there's also this video, and I will go ahead and play it for you. That's fun. And now we're 64% of the way through the download. Yay. Okay, so we are now back. My Unity has downloaded, so now, and the installation is complete. So now I'm going to say launch Unity. Oh no. I guess Okay, so now I'm going to show you the workaround if you're on a Mac computer. If you didn't get that error when we clicked launch and you're on a Windows computer, or if for some reason your Mac was fine with it, you're totally fine and you can move forward and skip this part. If you did get the fatal error though, then you should do this. So we're going to go to this little search icon here and type in disk utility. Then we're going to go to file, new image, and blank image. And it's going to bring up this screen. Here we're going to put CIFS, which is case insensitive file system. And for the name, you can just call it Unity Workspace. And I'm also going to change the size to 10 gigabytes because Unity projects need a lot of space. If you don't have that much space on your computer, you could move it down to like 2 gigabytes, or maybe even 1. But do give it as much space as you can. And then the format, keep it as Mac OS Extended Journaled. Just to show you, you definitely do not want one that says case sensitive because that was the problem before. You can leave the rest of these as is and click save. In my case, I already have this because I've already done these steps to make sure they work. So I'm going to click cancel, but you should just click save. Okay. So now what you'll have on your file system, so if I go to a browser window, for instance, it looks like this. So on here, I have this location now, Unity Workspace. And this is where I can save my Unity game and it won't give that error. So I'm going to go back to the Unity Hub and on this projects tab here, so under installs, I should have Unity 2019 already installed because that was the earlier part of this tutorial. I'm going to click on projects. And again, I already have this loaded because I've already gone through these steps, but you should probably not have anything here. And you're going to go to just new. You're going to click karting micro game because that's the template tutorial. Under project name, you're going to put my first game. It says path already exists. I'm just going to add 1 for me because I've already done this. And then under location, you're going to click these 3 little dots here. and it's going to let you browse, and you're going to go down until you see your Unity workspace, like what I have here. And you're going to do select folder, and it should look like this, where it says /volume/Unity workspace, and then you're going to click create. And when you do that, it's going to install and move all the assets for this template over to your Unity, and then it will launch. So I'll pick up the video back at that point. All right, so we're finally ready to start the tutorial. This is what should have popped up on your screen after everything loaded and launched. And so I'm just going to click Start Tutorial here. And what this is going to do is walk us through this microgame and teach us a little bit about everything we're seeing here. So this first tutorial is called Playtest, and if at any point you want to go back, you can just click this X here, and these are all the tutorials that you can do. I'm going to click Playtest again. It says select Start to begin and starts down here. Then it says click the play in the toolbar at the top of the screen. So don't get too confused. There's an animated arrow here, but this is my mouse. So I'm going to click this play button up here. And it should play the first game so that I can run through and see what it looks like. All right. Okay, so I'm going to use my arrow keys or my WASD keys to move forward. And it's like a little driver game. That's cool. Oh, okay, and so it looks like when I go through these purple arches, those are the checkpoints. And I just have to go through all of these checkpoints, and then I can finish the game. Yay! Cool. And then to exit play mode, I'm going to press this. Oh, and I actually have to move things because my zoom controls. I'm just going to press that play button again. And now it's telling me the hierarchy window contains a list of game objects. Okay, and click next. Keep going. So now it says select the Kart Classic player in the hierarchy window. So I click on that, and it brings up this inspector, which has all the components and properties associated with that one little player. So that's the guy in the cart. Okay, and now it says you can change the top speed property. Cool. So by increasing the number, you can, so I'm going to click base stats, and then it gives me this top speed, and it says I can make the cart go faster. I'm going to put 100. Okay, and click next. And now I'm going to click the play button again. Okay. And let's see if my cart indeed goes faster when I press the forward button. Oh yeah. Ah, it's a lot faster. Okay, so I get it. That's maybe a little too fast for me. Maybe I won't want to go back. All right, I'm going to click done there. And on that top speed, I'm probably going to modify it down to like 40 because that's probably good enough for me. Okay, next tutorial is the editor. So it says it's changes have been made. So I'm going to save that change so that the top speed's faster. Then it says in the editor UI, we'll learn more. So I'm going to click start. So this is the hierarchy window, and this is the scene window, and you can see the names up here. The scene allows you to navigate and edit your scene, and hierarchy contains a list of everything in the current scene that's open in the editor. So select the hand tool, which lets you navigate your view of the scene. So the hand tool is up here in the corner. I'm going to select that, and now I'm going to pan around. So I'm dragging and moving on the scene. Cool. All right, and that changes my view. I'm going to click next. It says orbit in the scene. So how do we kind of turn around? So it says I can press Alt or Option and the left mouse button to move. All right, very cool. So now I can change my view within the scene. And I'm just using a trackpad right now, but you could also use a USB mouse. It says zoom in and out. I can use the right mouse, or on a Mac trackpad, it's just 2 fingers to the right is my right mouse. Or you can scroll with a scrolling mouse. All right, cool. The next window is the project window, which we see down here, project. And it says this is where all the assets are. So prefabs are basically things that we can put into the environment, like trees, these rings, etc. Okay, and that's it for that tutorial. So now I just kind of have a better idea of what's going on in here. And this next tutorial will let me edit the colors so I can personalize the cart color. I'm going to click Start here. It says in the hierarchy window, select the cart classic player again. So I did that. Now it says frame the cart. So with my mouse cursor over the scene, I'm going to press F on the keyboard. Oh, and now it's framed this little guy. And it says select cart body down from the project window. Okay, so I click on that. And it brings up a window with all the properties of the cart body, which is this little guy. And it says click on the box next to the albedo color in order to change the color. Cool. And this comes up and I'm going to select, let's see, I'm just going to drag around. I'm going to go with this pink color instead. Okay. When you're done, you close the window and then click next. Okay. And now we're going to enter play mode again. Okay. Okay. Cool. So now we have the same game, except as we remember earlier, it should move a little faster. Oh, so that's 40 is the top speed, and color of my cart is purple. Cool. Okay. So the next thing we're going to personalize on this game is adding a jump. So I'm going to click this tutorial here. It said if prefab is a game object that has components that can be stored as an asset and can be reused anywhere you want in your game. The project window down here lists all the prefabs that are available. So let's click start to begin. So we can drag a jump wrap to the scene. Okay. So I'm going to click it and put it here. All right. And then we can position it using the Move tool or the keyboard shortcut W. All right, cool. And I'm going to zoom in. So here's my purple ramp. And I think if I click each of these arrows, it looks like it can change the dimensions. Oh, it changes the move. So it moves it up or down, forward or back, and up or down. All right. Okay. And I can also rotate and scale it. So up here on the left are those buttons. This is the rotate one. So I could rotate it sideways, but that doesn't make sense. So I'm going to undo that. Or I could scale it so I could make it longer and a little wider. Great. Next. And now we test the jumps by clicking play. I'm going to click done on this and let's test the jump out. So let's see what we've created. All right. So now I have this ramp. Woohoo! Oops. Oops. Okay. Cool. All right. Cool. So now what you could do is you could go around and put more ramps in if you wanted. You could put more obstacles, etc. But basically, we've learned how to customize our very first game. And the last step is, oh, it says save. The last step is to build and publish the game. So this is actually a cool part about Unity is you can use the WebGL publisher, and it will let you publish this game to the web, and you can share that link with your friends so they can play it with you. I'm going to go to publish, WebGL project. It says get started, and I'm going to say create a new WebGL build. I'm going to switch to WebGL, and it says location of the built application. It's going to be down here. I've actually done this tutorial a few times. This is my second recording to make sure it's good for you guys, and I'm going to choose this. So this is current build, and then it closed, and let's see what happens. This happens a few times. This happened a few times when I did it with the first tutorial too. I think it's just a little bit buggy on the Mac. So if it closes, I just reopened it from the Unity hub and we'll see if it loads. Let's see. All right, let's try it this way. So I'm going to click Unity Workspace and then my first game and click choose. Okay, and the fifth time is the charm. I think it'll just take some time, is my guess. All right, so the build finished, and like I said, the first time is usually the slowest, and then after that should be a lot faster. So now we just click publish, and it's going to upload to the web. And it opened another browser. So it opened the window over here. And it says, this is essentially my game. And I can give it a title. So I'm going to call it my first game. And I'm going to say my first micro game. Cool. And then I'm going to click save. And this is the URL that I can share with friends or family if they want to play it. But basically, I can click play on the web and should be able to play the game. Cool. So here are the controls. So you can move with these buttons or the arrows, and you can pause like this. Okay. I have to make this full size so I can see it. And I'm going to click play. Woohoo! That was too fast for me. All right, cool. And I think it'll record your screenplay if you want, etc. Very bad at this game. All right, cool. So I'm going to click not now so I can see all the controls. There we go. All right, cool. So you can modify, you can add a thumbnail, etc. But essentially, we've created and published, with a little bit of trial and error, our very first game.